questions about your work and everything, if you don't mind.
I
So
don't.
we'll get started. What are some things that you would suggest to add into Prince William County to keep some young adults out of trouble?
Well, I think that Prince William County, with it being such a massive county, being the second largest county in the Commonwealth, the vision that I have to make it shrink for us is the beauty is that we are separated by district. So, I'm in the Occoquan district. We have Gainesville, we have Neabsco,
Right.
we have Potomac. I believe we need to make Prince William County shrink for us. And if we could create, I'm going to say, multifaceted hubs in each district that focus on really the multifaceted needs of families and
Right.
children and youth, so that we can build protective, kind of hubs in communities. With the county being so large, it would be hard to do that kind of countywide on a massive scale. But if there was a hub in Occoquan and there were parents and there were community advocates and retirees that are committed to developing programs, to developing relationships, and really being sort of like a neighborhood watch to look out for suspicious things. Because, this year alone, I think I heard there was a child 8 or 9 years old in the county, almost getting abducted before school at 8:30 in the morning.
Oh my
Um,
goodness.
and so, making sure that, like the communities of back in the day, like it takes a village to raise a child, and we all need to be looking out, even if we don't have any children of our own. And so I think that we need to make the county shrink for us. I would love to see hubs, collaborative hubs in each district that can focus really on the localized issues, because what we're going through in Occoquan may be different than what they're going through in Neabsco or in
Right.
Gaines, and so that gives
Absolutely.
us the opportunity. And then maybe perhaps we could have countywide meetings, I don't know if I want to say quarterly, maybe quarterly, but the hubs meet more regularly to talk about safety issues, the needs of children. I mean, I really want to see more things happening on a preventative basis so that we don't need the mental health, services. If we could get them before they have the mental health emergency through mentoring, through programs that are transformative in nature. And I want to see more support for parents. I was a single mom of a African American boy. I know what it's like to have to commute to DC, get up at 5 in the morning, get on the commuter bus at 6 something. I'm not getting home till almost 7. Well,
Right.
those unsupervised hours are the hours where children and youth get in the most trouble and get distracted the most. So we
Absolutely.
need things for them to do, positive things, constructive things for them to do during those out of school hours and those times where they don't have supervision, because everybody doesn't have a two-parent household where one parent can stay home, because it could be a two-parent household, but each of them may be working 2 jobs because the cost of living has skyrocketed here.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with everything you just said. Being a young adult from this county myself, I was like, man, like I wish we did have more things to do, especially for people around my age to keep them, from staying out of trouble. And with majority of my friends who are African American males, who majority of them do come from a single mother household. So it like for me, I'm fortunate enough that I have both my parents in my life, but I was able to remain down to earth to understand not everybody has that. Not everybody's blessed with that, especially in our community.
Yeah.
So I was really like, man, we really do need some extra things here in the county that will help, especially, people of color, young men of color, stay out of trouble, do some supportive, positive things around the community.
It really
So
is going to take a collective effort. And I think the county government is in a great position to spearhead some things, but they can't do everything, just like the school district can't do everything. We really need
absolutely.
to come together and collaboratively approach it. But I just love the idea of narrowing in to the locale that you're in, because there's a lot of power in that. Because, once outsiders see that we're running that type of community where everybody is guarded up, they're looking out for each other's children. If someone's mom or dad is at work and your neighbor knows that, you're not supposed to have anybody in that house when your mom or dad is not home, You know,
Absolutely.
like the communities of back in the day. And I think that today with young people, I know you're a young adult, but you know, the distractions that we have, we today we didn't have when I was younger. This is a
Right.
tough time to grow up. There's so much access to information. Some of it is good, but a lot of it is not bad. And then the access to our children, be if they're teenagers or young adults, when you think about sex trafficking, you
Yeah.
know, getting catfished and thinking you're talking to one person and thinking you're going for a job interview or some type of opportunity, and you get there and they're actually trying to abduct you. Like these
Right.
are very unique challenges that I didn't have to go through growing up in the 90s.
Absolutely.
And so I think that we, you know, we have to come together on a county wide, but we need to make our community shrink for us, and then we need to mobilize. I think that we also need to find out what resources do we have right here in our community as far as human capital. We have people who were teachers that retired and they're just at home. We have
Right. Yep.
people who are passionate about public service and they may be looking for job opportunities, or some people that maybe want to start a nonprofit but don't know where to start. So
Yeah.
I think knowing who's in your community, in your hub, so to say, in your district, and you know, because some of it is that we need a lot of things that we don't have. So
Right.
we need people to start these mentoring programs or nonprofits or organizations that can actually do some of this work to engage youth and young adults in the region.
Absolutely. I wholeheartedly agree. It kind of brings me into my next question. Do you feel that the county has at least tried to make an effort going forward?
I think that we are in transition because we just got our new county executive, Christopher Shorter, and so we have to give him some time to get in and get acclimated.
Right.
Um, so, I mean, I would say I'm originally from Chicago. I lived in Arlington for several years before I relocated to Prince William County. Been in the county about 10 years. What I felt, you know, like moving here with a son who was in middle school, an African American son, was that there just wasn't enough. There just wasn't enough. That's just how I felt. Um, I took a look at Fairfax County's website for it's called Neighborhood and Community Services. And then I
Yeah.
looked at our county has community services. I thought it was unique because I think that's what we're missing. One of the pieces that we're missing. Neighborhood and Community Services in Fairfax County focuses on a host of issues that you and I are talking about for people who live there,
Right.
multifaceted needs and issues and how to address them or how to refer them to people who can meet their needs. Our community services really just focuses mostly on those who have mental health needs, whether it be adults, elders, or young adults. Well, what are we doing before they get to the point that they have a mental health need? What
Right.
infrastructure do we have in place, programming wise, engagement wise, for people who have very little money to people who have resources? What do we
Right.
have here? And I felt for a long time that it's like every man for himself in Prince William County. It's like
Absolutely.
that's the way it
Absolutely.
feels. If
That
if
is
your family
exactly
has resources, you're good.
right.
But
Yeah.
to me, it doesn't seem to have been a lot of thought given to people who don't have, or people who may be like moderate to middle income. But here, when your rent is $2,500, even if you're middle income, you are stretched thin. You're paying most of your income sometimes on rent. And you want to be able to make sure that you're confident enough to know my child, be that if they're a teenager or if they're transitioning into the young adult years, that they're protected, that they're engaged, that they're not getting off into drugs or the wrong things. But
Absolutely.
we have to build a protective community. We have
Right.
to build it. Yeah.
Exactly. Man, I'm taken aback by words because I've dealt with that and felt that way my whole time. I've grown up in Prince William County and went through the school system, and that's how it felt. If you weren't, making a good, stable income, or if you weren't a high academic performing student or athletic performing student, you kind of got pushed down to the side with people who don't want to learn, people who could care less about going to college, people who could care less about, furthering their education, doing better for themselves. and just like mainly stay in trouble and look for trouble. And that's how I was. I wasn't, I didn't have a 4.0 GPA. I played football, but I wasn't like a star football player or anything. So I was kind of pushed to the side and like outcasted until my senior year where I relocated and had a better opportunity. But that was just like it is how it is, right?
You relocate to another county?
Yes.
Okay, that's interesting. I don't know. I think I might have shared that with John. So my son went to middle school and 1 year of high school in Prince William County.
Okay.
I had been working on getting him in the A Better Chance Scholar Program for some years, and even starting as early as elementary school, we were working on getting into that program. It's a
Right.
national nonprofit that works with private schools to get minority students as well as some first generation, like college students, into competitive private schools for elementary, middle, and high school.
Right.
So he, I wasn't really happy with the experience at Woodbridge High School. He was trying to be cool and follow the other young men who, you know how it is with peer pressure and wanting to be accepted, trying
Absolutely.
to save his pants when he
Absolutely.
left the house, and I'm like, no, I did not go to school for as much time as I did to establish or raise you to establish a foundation that really promoted faith and also promoted high academic achievement, because
Right.
he was capable. But when he was at Woodbridge High School, I remember he wasn't turning in work. And in one class in particular, that teacher was letting him sit in the classroom with his earbuds in while she talked, as long as he didn't disturb the class. And so when I went to the teacher conference with her, she said, well, he didn't turn in this, he didn't turn in that. I said, well, you know what? The next time he doesn't turn in work, too bad. He doesn't get to. That's life. That's how,
Right.
said, well, they don't really like us to do that because they said that's gonna mess up the scores, like the standardized, like the scores for the, and I'm like, well, no.
Right.
And she
Yeah.
really didn't know he was intelligent. I had to tell her, I said, he's been writing historical fiction since he was in elementary school. And I had to explain to her that he was gifted. She had no idea because she had kind of just, because of his behavior in the classroom of just acting nonchalant and trying to be like everyone else, she had kind of pegged him as one of those Black boys.
Yep.
You know.
That's exactly how it is.
And then he went to boarding school for the last 3 years, private boarding, all boy private boarding. And within the first 2 weeks of him he went to Woodbury Forest in Orange, Virginia.
Okay.
Within the first 2 to 3 weeks of getting there, he called and left me a message and was like, thank you so much for sending me here. He was like, I'm finally learning something. I realized when I was at Woodbridge High School, I was just trying to be cool. So now he's in a setting, it's more like it's like the teacher-student ratio is 1 teacher to 10 students. Is like a college seminar setting. And these are people whose parents are paying a lot of money. We were able to get some funding to go there. The school is like $70-something thousand a year for high school.
Man.
So, he got that opportunity to finish high school there. But like I saw, like I did not want him to slip through the cracks and get caught up with the wrong, well, I don't want to say the wrong crowd, the crowd of people doing the wrong things.
Exactly.
Those kids are not wrong people. They're just doing the wrong things. And they need to be redirected. They need some tough love. So I want to be very careful in my wording because I think that they have the ability to turn their lives around and to do productive things as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And my next question, do you think that placing more activities for young adults around Prince William County, besides things like a casino or like nightclubs or anything, do you think that would be like help?
Yes, I do. I think that we need to, because right now you have to drive into DC to do a variety of things. And I don't know like what types of things. I guess recreational things, we have the parks and the trails and things like that. But I think that the county but definitely needs to assess what young adults feel like they need that's missing.
Absolutely.
Because many of us are older. We're from a different generation. I'm Generation X. And are you Gen Z?
Yes, Gen Z.
Okay. Yep. And so we need to hear from young adults. What kind of things would you like to do? What would you like to see as well as from families, finding out what are your pain points? What is it that you need that you don't see here in Prince William County? What kind of supports do you need? What are you struggling with? Same thing for young adults. What are your pain points? What do you need? What do you wish that was here that you see in other communities that is not here? Or better yet, maybe you don't see it in any communities and you want to be a pioneer and build it here within Prince William County. Like, we need to be very deliberate about getting these answers through surveys, focus groups, individual interviews with community members. We need to go the distance so that we can make Prince William County one of the best places to live.
Absolutely, because it's already a beautiful county with beautiful people, and it has potential. But I wholeheartedly agree with what you said. It felt like it was more economically based, if that makes sense, like building houses everywhere there's open land, building retail stores where there's open land to make more money in an already sort of booming economy, where you can have like maybe add roller skating rinks for young adults that like to go roller skating, add maybe an arcade, like, things like, I'm an early 2000s kid, but I fantasize about like, I wish I had a time machine to go back to the 80s, because it just seems like such a wonderful time to be alive. So I wholeheartedly agree with everything you just said, because like I said, it felt more economically based instead of, catering to the young adults, which make up majority of the county.
Yeah, no, that's good. When you said skating, I was like, yes, that's one thing, because I have skates. I have my own skates.
Yeah.
But we would have to go to Stafford or to Maryland.
Yep.
I believe those are the closest places. We have our ice skating rink, but yeah, that would be wonderful.
Absolutely.
And I don't know if there are any other types of establishments that maybe are large, but have, on one side, it's a skating rink on one side, and it has an arcade.
Right.
I don't know. I would have to look into it. I'm thinking about the different types of programs or facilities, but I had the opportunity yesterday was Friday. It was Thursday to attend the Affordable Housing Summit here in Prince William County.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was there, it made sense to me, even with what we're talking about now with the lack of activities, and things to do for youth and young adults. A lot of it, when I listened to them talk about like the last 30 years in this county, and there has been resistance to even create housing that will house the people who are not wealthy, people who don't have a lot of money. And so we have to consider that even when we're thinking about the lack of programming, because, we know that they don't want certain types of housing on the other end, the western end of the county. They're trying to protect their 10 acres and but it is very much tied to, because if you don't want to build housing that people who are moderate to middle can afford, you're not going to be worried about programming for their kids, because your kids have dance classes.
Exactly.
Have this. What I mean? I think that it's linked, that there has been somewhat a pattern in this county of really, selfishness in some ways.
Yes, absolutely.
With the powers that be, and even if it's not deliberately supposed to be, it's not deliberately racist. When we look at wealth and the transmission of wealth, Black people have not been free long enough fully to build that type of generational wealth to pass on in homes. And right now, with the cost of housing, it's very difficult. But I think when we think about the programming and the lack of programming, we have to also think about the connection to housing and economics in this county and how it's been dealt with.
Absolutely.
By the previous board of supervisors. Like, I'm just still learning, because this is not home for me. I'm still learning about, what's happened, but I do think that it's connected.
Absolutely.
It hasn't been a priority, but if you don't give children something to do, if you don't give youth something to do, their parents have to work to keep a roof over their head. And unfortunately, that means that they can't be there sometimes. We have to care about those families as well, because if their kids get in trouble, it becomes a community issue.
Absolutely.
And it can be prevented. if we can do some things to prevent it, to engage them, to mentor them, to give them opportunities to have work and do like apprenticeships with local businesses. There's a variety of things that we can do, but we have to get out of doing the same things we've done the last 20 years in this county.
Absolutely.
It's different now. And I didn't know this, but I learned at the Affordable Housing Summit that we are the 10th most diverse county in the nation.
Yep.
If we're the 10th most diverse county in the nation, then we should be up there with the way that we are addressing the diverse needs of the population, our children, our youth, our families. Like, we should be put on the map for just the miraculous things that we're doing.
Exactly.
And it's
Exactly.
not.
Exactly. No, I wholeheartedly, again, agree with you. It's just, man, lost for words because you took the words right out of my mouth, honestly, because it's just like, we need to feel like we need to care for everybody in the county, no matter if they're white, black, rich, poor, single, married, everybody should feel included and become a part of this already booming and big and beautiful community, So it kind of ties into my next question. Would you say that Prince William, if adding more volunteering work for young adults, would also help and play a big part?
I agree. I think giving youth the opportunity to take part in civic and community engagement opportunities is amazing. It will have a transformative effect on them, because
Absolutely.
not only will they be helping the community, but they'll feel better about themselves.
Right.
And they're developing skills, they're developing interpersonal skills, and depending on the volunteer activity, they may pick up some hard skills as well.
Right.
But I think that's a great opportunity. One that I used with my son when he was here, we would volunteer. Every holiday, we would go volunteer for different organizations. And I integrated that into our household and our family life. Giving back is not optional. It is absolutely necessary. That's the rent we pay for being here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love doing volunteer work. I used to go out with my uncle all the time. He helps give back to the homeless every last Saturday of the month. So we would go out, we donate clothes that we don't need, can't fit anymore for kids. We make little bag lunches for them, like sandwiches and chips and soda, stuff that they would need, And I always say, like, they don't always necessarily need $5 on the street. They need direction, they need guidance, they need help, and we should care for them. And my sister and I are volunteering in a mentoring foster kids youth program. So I'm really excited about that because we just like to give back where we can. Not everybody is in a situation where they can sit and be comfortable or be happy, and they deserve that. So.
Oh, absolutely. And then the path out of homelessness in this region is difficult.
Absolutely.
Because some people who are homeless used to be housed.
Right.
Look at the increase in the cost of living. Many people are one check away from being homeless.
Absolutely.
Because while the rents are increasing, pay is not necessarily increasing. Minimum wage or the salaries are maybe not increasing. So,
exactly.
We have to think through that. But I think it's wonderful. What's the name of the mentoring program?
I believe it's called Tagged.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I know that program. My friend, do you know Joan Williams?
I think we were put in touch with them. I'm not sure, but I have to go back and double check.
Because they actually don't they help provide, like, for the kids that are aging out of foster care, they send them to college with gifts and stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I've heard of that. Okay, that reminds me then. Yeah, I want to definitely get involved with TAG. My friend is involved with the program. I think she's on the board.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so we're really excited to start that. And then Northern Virginia is always growing, expanding, and creating spaces for young adults is like is kind of falling by the wayside. Um, so with the new casino being built, do you think that with things like the casino and like nightclubs, do you think that will bring in more crime?
I think that it's a possibility. And I think that in the, in the post-pandemic era that we're in, we're already seeing an increase in crime and I feel like a sense of desperation.
Absolutely.
That it's just people are behaving a little bit different. When you go in the grocery store, you see packages open, people are taking because they can't afford to buy things, deodorant. Like I'm seeing people are stealing laundry soap. And
Yeah.
so also considering that the kind of the time in which we're in, people are already feeling desperate.
Yeah.
So, they're, unfortunately, that may not have a positive effect. Those types of entities, though they bring in revenue and they bring in jobs, but, what element is it going to also bring to the
Correct.
area? You know, and we
Right.
don't, I mean, I don't know. I'm not a big casino person. I've been to a casino one time in my whole life, and I said, I'm never going again.
Yeah.
I didn't like it. I was in Illinois, but I didn't like it because for me, I have a very sensitive soul and spirit. So what I felt in there was like, it was like a sense of desperation. I almost feel like it felt like a drug
Mhm.
house because people were just, you know, I didn't like it. So I'm not a
Yeah.
casino person. I would probably never go.
Right.
Don't like it. Personally, I just don't like it. But I think that right now we need to be careful about everything that because people, I mean, we're seeing a lot more theft, people breaking into people's houses, a lot more violent crime. I feel like in the county, I don't remember hearing this much in the years prior. Um, I don't know if this was in our county when that someone pulled up to the 7-Eleven and told the employee to leave and they drove in and tried to take the lottery machine. I don't was that in Prince William?
I'm not quite sure. I've have heard the story, but I'm not sure where it was. But I honestly I wouldn't be shocked. But yeah.
So we're seeing a lot of that and we need to pay attention. We're seeing that along with the fentanyl use, and being poison, for young people who somebody might have just tried it one time. Like,
Right.
so it's so imperative that we think about prevention. We think about putting positive infrastructure and activities for young people and being there for young people because some people don't have anybody to talk to.
Absolutely.
So they're trying to get approval from peers and friends that really aren't the best influences.
Right.
And it's hard for parents to raise young people. Like it was for me, it was hard because the way that I ran my house was not typical. And so, my son wanted to do what everybody else was doing,
Hmm.
you know, and I'm just a little old school.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with that. Hey, I have old school parents and I'm actually really thankful because without them, I don't know where I would be, especially considering with how some of my friends are. I'm like, oh man, like
Yeah,
whew,
it's
I'm
it's
thankful for
very hard being a parent. Um, and you don't want to shelter your kids, but it's hard because you have to love them, train them up, and prepare them for the world, but also you don't want them going out because being one at the wrong place with a friend and doing something, it could all just blow up, and so
easily.
yeah,
Easily.
easily, just not intentional. And then when you're African American, you don't get the same treatment as people with a lighter hue in
Right.
the same situations. You get different consequences, and it could cost you your life. So,
Absolutely.
it's hard raising, I'm gonna say brown and black children, because you have to train them up to be prepared for the world that may not love them back.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Absolutely.
And so we need more help. We need to help people. Right now I only have one child and he's an adult, but we need to be helping other people in our communities by looking out for their children, looking for ways that we can create new organizations and programs within our districts. Not just businesses, but we need to hear from the community. What's needed,
Right.
to hear from the community about what's needed. And we need to take some action in building coalitions to make sure that we're actually doing what's needed, not just having a meeting and talking about it. Okay, so what's the action plan? What's our next step? And who are the
Absolutely.
people who want to be involved?
Absolutely. And moving forward with these plans, actually, instead of
Absolutely.
just discussing it and hoping that it comes to fruition. So,
Right. No, we have to, like, one of the things that I said I had regarding the affordable housing post is that, and I've known this, but Prince William County, they did projections on population growth years ago, and there were a certain number of housing units that should have been built to keep up with the projections. We're nearly 9,000 units behind as far as creation. Like, we're behind in so many ways for us to be the second largest county. I think I learned also that we're the only county in Northern Virginia that does not have a housing ordinance. I think that that's correct. And I know that our housing trust fund didn't have a lot of funds in it, but housing is the nexus for everything else. So that's why I keep coming back to housing, because if you're not housed, who cares about a program for recreation?
absolutely.
Housing is the nexus. Where you live determines what school your children are going to, and the quality of that school, and the barriers and the challenges that are going to be present in that school, the grocery stores, the other stores. We know very much. When I went to my son's basketball game at Reagan Middle School,
Mm-hmm.
and he was at Lake Ridge Middle at the time, and I saw that building and I saw those uniforms. I didn't think we were in the same county.
Right. Yep.
So housing is the nexus, and that is what was said at the Affordable Housing Summit, and it is absolutely correct. So we need to start thinking strategically about attacking these issues, not in silos. So not, oh, that's a housing issue, that's an education, that's a, youth programming. No,
Right.
everything has to be thought about as a connect. It's connected because it's connected.
Absolutely.
Social services, all of it. We really need to start thinking through developing strategies in a multifaceted fashion. Everything we can't just think about one here, one there, because social services is serving the same population that the school district's serving. And
Right.
all of it is, and so we really need to, I feel like, progress, because we're behind a lot of, I'm going to say, if you think about nationally, the things that some jurisdictions are doing,
Mm-hmm.
be innovative, we're behind
Yeah.
in a lot of ways. And so, but that means that within the county, they're going to have to start valuing new voices with new ideas. I've been here a decade, and
Yeah.
I've not gotten much movement, by way of, because sometimes it's about who you know.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But we have dynamic, smart, innovative people in this community that we may not even know. They
Yep.
come from all over the nation and all over the world because we're so diverse. So we need to start tapping into, okay, who's here? What are the needs? What are the assets that we have here? How can we capitalize on these assets that we have, the knowledge, the creativity of people who are right here that we don't know? We're not tapping into what we have in our community already.
Absolutely. I couldn't, again, agree more, especially coming as a Black young male coming from the county. I grew up there, lived there my whole life, seeing how it is, and I've seen also the difference between the east and west side of the counties. Just like when you said when you went to the basketball game and you saw the building and the uniforms, it's really like a really big difference on both sides of the county.
Yes.
They play two absolutely different roles. It all boils down again to housing, like you said, because if you have housing sets the foundation, sets the foundations for where your son or daughter is going to go to school, how they're going to learn, what they're going to do, et cetera, et cetera. So without that stable, you really have nothing,
Yeah.
So
And
absolutely.
what they can access, what resources, because the resources that those young people in Gainesville or in these other areas can access, when you talk about how we were talking about youth and young adults, what they see and they experience is a lot different than what they see in Dumfries or in
Yeah.
Congo, or because I
Yep.
remember also when he was on the basketball team. So I had the experience of going to the game at Reagan Middle and saw their building, and but then I also went to Graham Park and saw their uniforms. And
Hmm.
at that time, it looked like their uniforms were the ones they had when I was in middle school,
Yeah.
because resources, and it just
Yep.
should not be like that.
Right.
Our young people who are at Graham Park deserve to have quality new, uniforms as well. Now, mind you, this has been several years ago because my son was in middle school probably in like 2014, 15, something like
Hmm.
that. But I still got a chance to see the disparity in the same
Yeah.
district, you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Especially when I was in middle school, I went to Potomac. And that seems like it's a nice area. It's a beautiful area. However, I was more oppressed and really kind of bullied by the staff and teachers there because I wasn't the type of Black student that was going to give you any pushback. I wasn't disrespectful. I do my work, I mind my business, I stay out the way, and I'm as respectful as I can be, especially to older adults because they're older than me and they're adults. But I like, for one instance, I had a teacher tell me, do I need a baby bottle? And I was like, this says a lot right here. And that kind of shaped my foundation of getting away from the east side. And I ended up transferring over to Hilton High School. And I just was like, it was helpful for me until it wasn't.
Mhm.
And it kind of slid down too. So
And so did you go to Potomac High School any?
nope, nope.
You went to Potomac
Transferred.
Middle for 3 years, and then you went to Hilton. Okay.
Yeah, transfer right after because we just had so many, there's so many other issues that I can go into, but we'll be here all day that happened to me at that school. And I don't want to like bash it or hate it or anything, but it was just at the time what I was experiencing
Yeah.
personally from the staff, from people who work there. And when I would like try to reach out to get help, it was kind of like nobody would like listen to me, nobody heard me. And so I would love to see a change, especially when it comes to the east side, Potomac, Grand Park, Fred Lynn,
Yeah.
those type of schools. I would love to see them all just coming together, especially when Gainesville has so many resources.
Yeah.
In Potomac and Grand Park, not so much.
Yeah, and absolutely, and of course, as someone who has my background is in educational policy studies, but really looking at kind of like what we're talking about, the social aspects of education, the social foundation, because we think
Right.
of education and then we think about, oh, the teacher, the curriculum, the teaching, but if a child shows up and they slept in the car all night, or if they um, they're being abused or any of these things, those are all social factors that impact education, and if we don't
Absolutely.
approach education that way, we fail. We have to take
Absolutely.
into consideration what's happening outside. If a student is on their cell phone all night long on social media and they get to the class the next day, which I've heard students say, oh, I was up to 4 o'clock in the morning playing video games or what, so we have to approach education in a multifaceted fashion as well. But I want to say personally that I'm sorry that you had that experience in middle school. It's no excuse for it.
Right.
No excuse for it. And I think when in the context of schooling and educational institutions, that teachers and staff members need to pay attention to who's not getting attention. Because a
Absolutely.
lot of times the bullying, you can see it. You can see the people who are social outcasts.
Yep.
We need to be looking and loving on kids that are not integrated into the life of the school or feel uncomfortable. Because we can
Absolutely.
nip some things in the bud years in advance if we
Right.
look and address it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I thank you again for taking the time out of your day to meet with me. and sit and talk about these issues and do this interview because it's so important, especially in a county that is so, like, again, diverse, big, has potential. It's an amazing county, but we can do a little bit more and put in a little bit more effort into our community as a whole. So again, I thank you so much for everything you're doing, and thank you for meeting with me today.
You're welcome. And I wish you all of the best. If you all need anything else, please